Hey guys, Tony here, welcome back to the channel, hope you're doing really well. In this video, I'm going to break down the main differences between TVs and projectors and why you would want to use one over the other or maybe even both in 2020, so stay tuned. One of the most asked questions I get on my channel is whether to go with a projector screen or a television. Now generally I don't like to answer these questions because it's very hard to know which way to go until you analyze the room and you understand the specific use case. So in 2020 we are really spoilt for choice in the home theater market when it comes to deciding whether we go with a projector or a television. On one hand, a television is convenient, fairly affordable, very easy to use straight out of the box, which can be easily wall mounted or just use the stand that comes with the television. However, in my opinion, it doesn't offer the same immersion that you get from having a theater projection screen, because you literally cannot get TVs at 120 inch unless you're mega rich and you can afford to buy them. I've never seen them available in the retail market. A television also doesn't take up the same amount of space that a projector screen does, or a projector, as owning a projector means that you need to have a screen, a mount, have to mount HDMI cables and power cables, and you may even need an electrician to run power up to where you're going to place the projector. So in that instance, a television is far more convenient than a projector. Some other factors in owning a television is you don't need to control the ambient light. They do come with built-in speakers, whereas some projectors do have built-in speakers. They are generally pretty awful, and you are listening to the sound if it's a ceiling mounted projector up on the roof behind you, which is kind of distracting and sounds weird when the picture is in front of you to hear the sound from behind you. So in that case, the television does have it over a projector, because even if the speakers are not the best, they are at least coming from in front of you. But how does a television compare to a projector with the specific use case of a dedicated home theater? There are some differences, some obvious, some not so obvious. The first one obviously being the size. You just can't get a TV to the same size that you can with a projector for relatively the same budget. When I think of watching a movie, especially a blockbuster, I like to think of a big screen, a big scale, and a big immersion factor. That's really important to me. You just don't really get that from a TV. I have a 75-inch Sony. That was pretty much the ceiling of what I could afford in terms of getting a decent TV, and anything bigger than that was just going into the tens of thousands of dollars and something that I just could not entertain. One of the subtle differences, and it may not be something that you would be aware of, but the television has lights shining out of it. That is a very different effect on the eyes than having reflected light off the screen surface that you get from a projector. I find that the light coming reflected off a projection screen is far less fatiguing than the lights coming out of a TV. Especially if you're in a darkened room, having reflected light is far easier on the eyes than the lights shining out of a television. This can be subjective, but this is my own personal opinion and from my own experiences. I will leave some links down below to some of my favorite televisions, ranging in different budgets and different specifications, so if you're interested, do consider checking those out down below. Another main difference with having a TV instead of a projector in a dedicated home theater situation is that you cannot place speakers behind the television. If you're trying to build a reference theater such as Dolby Atmos or DTS:X, you will need to have speakers placed at ear level, and the most important speaker in most setups is going to be the center channel, because that's where all the dialogue's coming from. Being able to place that behind the screen when you have a projector and an acoustically transparent screen gives you that much more realistic audio experience. This is something that you just cannot achieve when you've got a television, because it's a hard surface and you can't put it behind because the sound will reflect off that hard surface. Pretty obvious, right? But it's a big point of difference. Speaking about sound, in 2020, I personally believe whether you go with a TV or a projector, you definitely need an external sound system. Definitely you need one with a projector, but I still think you need one with a TV. It's very difficult for manufacturers to fit any speakers with any kind of distinctive quality behind a bezel that thin. At the very minimum, I would recommend a decent 3.1 channel soundbar, which is left, center, and right channel, as well as an additional subwoofer to take care of those nice deep notes when you're watching big action blockbuster films. So that's at the very least. I would definitely go, if your budget and your room allows for it, a 7.2.4 Dolby Atmos system. In my opinion, at the moment, this is the best configuration that you can get on a budget. It's definitely achievable. So I will leave links down below to some speaker systems that I really like. So yeah, check those out, they're down in the description. I'm not even going to waste time talking about the speakers that come out of projectors, because in my opinion, even if they do, that's not what I would want from a dedicated home theater. I want something with big sound to match the big screen. So if you're watching out of a projector, it's generally going to be a big screen. You need equally big sound to match it. If you would like to know more about setting up a home theater, I will leave a link up here in one of the cards to an earlier video that I made, which is about how to build your very own home theater and some of the things that you need to look out for before you get started. So yeah, if you're interested after you watch this video, do consider checking that out. So why would you want to pick a projector and a projection screen over a television in a dedicated home theater situation? Well, for starters, we did mention this before, but it's the scale and the size that you get from a projection screen. You're just not going to get that from a TV. So that's probably the main big reason. That's it, video finished. That's it, job done. I'm kidding. No, there are many reasons why you may want to pick one. That's definitely only option number one. It does give you that feeling reminiscent of being in a movie theater. Because it's reflected light, it's also quite large, and it's bigger than what you're used to watching from a TV. So it does set it apart from your normal sort of day-to-day watching experiences on a TV. So in that respect, in a dedicated home theater, it's perfect because it does give you that wow factor, something that separates it apart from your normal day-to-day viewing experiences. While a TV can provide awesome colors and great brightness in any lighting situation, there is just nothing like that feeling you get when you're sitting in a theater room with a massive screen and big sound to match, watching your favorite movies, and it brings you closer to the action. And to me, that is what a theater experience is all about. However, to have a projector means that you do need to outlay additional cash because you do need to buy the projector screen, the ceiling mount, running any power and cables like HDMI, and you may need an electrician to do it for you, especially if you have to run them across the ceiling, down a wall, across the floor, under the skirting boards, just to get to where your processor is. Then yeah, there's extra money there. So it's not as simple as just spending $2,000 on a projector, job done. No, that's not the case. You are definitely up for other things. Now they could add into the hundreds of dollars, maybe even up to $1,000, just in the ancillary things that you need to do to make that projector screen work. So that is definitely something that you need to consider, whereas with a TV, you just unbox it, plug it in, off you go. There are lots of choices in 2020 when it comes to buying a projector. So you have 1080p, eShift 4K, and True Native 4K as probably the top three options that I'd consider looking for at the moment. You can also go with your standard projector, which goes at the back of your room, or you can go with the mid-range projector, which is still considered a short throw, or you can go with ultra short throw. Ultimately, the size of your room will dictate which way you go with your projector. So I will leave a link down below to a projector screen calculator where you can pick the model of projector, the size of your room, and the size of the screen that you want, and whereabouts you want to place it, and it will tell you whether or not the projector that you're looking at will actually fit the bill. I've left the link down below, so consider checking that out once you finish with this video. In some cases, if you have a small room but you still want a 120-inch screen, you may not be able to put the projector that you want even right up at the back of the room. It may still be a small image. So you may need to go with a short throw projector that you could mount in the middle of your room, and that way you will get the 120-inch screen. You also have ultra short throw projectors, and there are so many great ones on the market now, even some that are doing 4K, which is absolutely amazing. And they have built-in speakers, which apparently are not too bad. I haven't heard any myself, but the reviews that I've been seeing is that even those speakers are pretty decent. I still wouldn't use that as a consideration for buying one. I would look at it more as the space and the size that you have available to you, and that would be the reason I would go with one. You also then need to consider your lighting in the room. If you have lots of ambient light, then you may need to go with an ambient light rejection screen, which will stop light coming in from specific angles. You will need to pick the right one for your situation, because if you have a top-mounted, rear-mounted, or bottom-mounted projector, the screen, even though it's ambient light rejection, will have different angles so that it can block the light coming from the sides or the top or the bottom, depending on where your light source is coming from. If you're in a basement, then generally you won't have issues with lighting because, yeah, it's in like my room, even though it's not in a basement, I still have shutters on my windows and I have a door that I can close, so this room can be completely dark if it needs to be. If you've been fortunate enough to be allowed to have another space in the house, like a old formal lounge and dining or something that is no longer used, and yes, you're going to turn that into a theater, but you may have completely open on one side, you do need to think about either maybe putting curtains up or getting something like a TV that will work in that space. Because if you get a projector, you will be restricted to watching it at nighttime, because during the day the colors and the lighting will be completely washed out. Even with an ambient light rejection screen, it is better, but it's still not perfect. Another option that you get with going with a projection screen is that you can choose which aspect ratio you want to buy your screen in. Unlike a television which is locked to 16:9, and feel free to correct me in the comment section down below if you know of any televisions that are in CinemaScope format, but you can achieve this with a projection screen built in CinemaScope. So you can go with a 16:9 screen, or you can go with a CinemaScope screen. Actually, you can go any size or ratio screen you like, because you can even build it yourself. But the standard formats for watching movies is 2.35:1, considered CinemaScope, or you can go with 16:9, which is most content which is produced for TV. The only issue I have with going with a CinemaScope screen in a dedicated home theater is the menu system. In most of the streaming boxes, especially the ones I use, they are locked to 16:9. So in the Apple TV, if I was to look at it on a CinemaScope screen, I would only be looking at the middle. The sides would be like cropped, and to me, I like when I come in here to see the whole picture, especially in the menu system. It's just the way I like it. Seeing bars kind of throws me off a little bit. I would rather the bars at the top of the bottom, especially when you're watching a movie, because then the lights are off and you don't see them anyway. So now that we've covered off most of the main differences between televisions and projectors, there are a few finer details that we should look at. Some television manufacturers support different standards, such as Dolby Vision and HDR. Part of this standard of Dolby Vision and HDR is that they guarantee certain things like color gamut and brightness, and this is something that I personally believe is impossible to do with a projector, because there are too many variables involved. There's the ambient light in the room, the distance of the projector to the screen, and the type of material that it's actually projecting on. There is absolutely no way that you can guarantee this in a projector. With a TV you can, because it isn't affected by those conditions such as ambient light. It will be at that brightness, guaranteed, all day every day, whether it's day or night. That's the color, that's the brightness, that's what you're going to get. Now, some do it better than others, but as a standard, if it's been certified for having that, that TV will produce that level of brightness and that color gamut. In my research for this video, when I was looking up some of the technical things, I found on the BenQ website they made a very interesting article, and I will link it down below, which does explain the challenges of producing a projector that does do HDR. So if you're interested, check that down below in the description. Now, after hearing all this, you may still be confused or unsure about which way to go. I'll weigh in with my own personal experiences in order to shed some light on the subject. A quick background: I have a 16:9 120-inch screen with an Epson TW9300, which is a 4K rated projector, and I have a fully darkened room with matte black paint, and it is light controlled. It looks really great when you're in a fully darkened room. This projector is on song. It looks amazing. The colors are just pop. The black levels are really good, and because I have a 7.2.4 sound system, it sounds great as well. The sound definitely matches the large scale size screen that I've got. Because my room is only 3.6 by 4.6, 120 inches is literally the most that I can fit, and I'm only 2 meters away from the screen. So it is pretty cool. It's very immersive. Some may say it's too close. I'm often on the fence about whether it's too close, but I can tell you it does feel big, and when you're watching action movies, it's fantastic. The million-dollar question is, do I come in here and watch everything in this room? And the answer is a resounding no. There are quite a few subconscious decisions that I make before I come in this room, such as, is it going to be a 4K movie? Is it going to have Dolby Atmos or any kind of 5.1 or 7.1 sound encoding? Is it just going to be an average B-grade movie or TV show? Because do I really want to waste the bulb life on something like that? These are things that go through my head before I make the decision whether or not to go to the TV and turn it on or come into here. And that leads me to the third part of the title of this video, which is or both. And I'm a big believer in the both. I believe there is a place for a projector as well as a TV if you can afford it. I do believe both are quite affordable. I don't know everyone's living situations, but for me, I do find that it wasn't too hard for me to be able to buy both. I didn't buy them both at the same time. I had to save, but I still ended up with both. And that is something that I think is achievable in 2020, because prices are an all-time low. Even for big screen TVs, you can get them for $1,000, which is nuts, because years ago, something the size that I'm getting now was $10,000 to $20,000. So I'm a big believer in both for those reasons, that you can get the best of both worlds. You can get in a dedicated home theater, you can have a big screen that matches, you know, the blockbuster that you're watching. If you want to watch sport, however, I still recommend going with a television, because the refresh rates on projectors just cannot keep up with that high refresh rate that you get from a television, especially when you're watching something in here. Like, I like to watch the State of Origin, which is a sport over here, rugby league. It's like the pinnacle of that sporting code, and sometimes they kick the ball and it's like dunk, 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 dunk. You don't see that smooth trajectory on the ball like you do when you're watching it on a TV. How do I know this? Because last year when I was watching the State of Origin, I started in this room, and then I ended up back out there watching it on the TV, because it just was so much better to see a smooth action than in the theater where it was quite blocky. Sometimes as well, I won't want to waste the bulb life on TV shows unless it's a really high production value like the latest DC ones like Titan and Stargirl, which are in CinemaScope format. I don't know if it's quite CinemaScope, but there are black bars at the top and the bottom. So it is in a wider screen format, and the sound is at least 5.1, so you are getting really good quality. Personally, another reason why I don't like to come in here all the time is because I think it loses the wow factor. The novelty wore off very quickly with me, because in the beginning I started coming in here all the time, and then I realized, yeah, it's no big deal, and then I thought, no, I'm gonna stop coming in here and only coming in here when I want to watch something big. And at the moment, I'm only coming into the theater to watch something once to twice a week, mostly on the weekends. And I do find that, like, get excited if I know there's a big movie coming out. Like when Extraction was coming out, I was counting down days. To me, that just looked like a phenomenal movie, and it ticked all the boxes for me because I love action movies, and it had Dolby Atmos. So I was like, yes, I can't wait to try it out in my theater room. So yes, I definitely watched that in here. I didn't watch it on my big screen TV. I do watch most things on my big screen TV for that reason, as well as I don't like to be sitting in here on my own. I've covered that off in a couple of my other videos, but sitting in this room on your own can be a bit boring, and sometimes it's nice just to have your family around while you're watching something. For my Sony TV, I wasn't allowed to put in a immersive sound system, so I got a soundbar. It's a Sony that matches the TV. It's a 2-channel plus a subwoofer, and it sounds great. It's got big booming sound, and that does work well when you're watching movies that don't have those great up mixes. I find that stereo movies sound much better coming out of the soundbar than they do coming out of a 7.2.4 system. Don't know why, I'm sure there's reasons for that, but yeah, I prefer it coming out of a 2-channel system. So for me, having a projector and a TV is the best of both worlds, and I hope that this does give you some indication from just an average person like myself, giving you their opinion on having both, and it may help you make a decision on which way you want to go. I'm sure there are many more things to consider, so if there's anything that I've missed, please leave it in the comment section down below. If you like the video, smash the like button for me and drop a comment down below letting me know about your choice between a TV and a projector. I'm super curious to find out which way you guys have gone. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and you'll catch me in the next video. Bye for now.